Hi, my name is Michelle Mueller, and I'm a librarian with the Erlanger branch of the Kenton County Public Library. I work in the Career and Job Services Department. This class is Finding a Job 101. So this is your very basics, helping patrons look for jobs, create a very basic resume. So these are really your folks who, are returning to the job market, maybe have taken some years away, or they're just looking for a new job and they don't have a resume. This class is really meant to help you help them. The nice thing is everything is free. They don't need to, sign up for any sort of subscription other than having a Gmail account. And honestly, we recommend folks to have a Gmail account. So if your patient doesn't have a Gmail account, I would highly recommend them to get one. That is sort of your standard now for professional emails. Most folks, you don't want to be applying for jobs with an AOL account, an AOL email account, or even a Yahoo email account that's dated at this point. Most people are using Gmail accounts. So let's go ahead. I'm going to share my screen so you guys can follow along with what I'm doing here. All right. So you can see I'm here. This looks pretty familiar. And what's nice about using Google for sort of beginning to end of your job search is that people are familiar with it. Even if they aren't computer literate and they're not very comfortable with the computer, most people have heard of Google. It's not scary, intimidating. That's very much in pop culture at this point. So this is just your basic landing screen. Google.com. You'll see here that I am already signed in. That's why I have an M for Michelle. Next to that, you'll see a couple things. I can get directly to my Gmail account here, or I can do an image search. That's if you're looking for just simply images of dogs or pine trees or whatever you might be looking for. But sort of the next thing here is this, menu. And we call this a waffle menu because not surprisingly, it kind of looks like an Eggo waffle. If I hover over it, you'll see it's called Google Apps. You might also hear that referred to as Google Workspace. They're just sort of interchangeable terms, but this is where we're going to find all the other things that you get free with your Gmail accounts. So you can see here, I have everything from sort of my account information, your Google search, Google Maps, YouTube, your Play Store, and so on. We're going to start, since I'm already logged in, we're going to take a look at your Google Drive. So, and this can be rearranged. So if you log into your Gmail account, you may have things in different orders. You can simply click and drag to move this around. I'm going to throw your Google Drive up here at the top, or my Google Drive here. And once I click on that, it's going to take me to my Google Drive. So you can see here, it's a place for all of your files. This is cloud storage. So if you're not familiar with cloud storage, that just means instead of storing something on a physical device, such as a flash drive or the desktop of your computer, the hard drive of your computer, you are storing it on the cloud. So you're storing it online. So why would we want to do that? Well, I know in particular in our library, we have a ton of people still using flash drives. They'll come in, they'll work on something, and they'll forget to take their flash drive with them. We have a whole box of flash drives have been left. So A, you're not going to lose it. You can go anywhere in the world with internet access, log into your Gmail account or your Google account and access your files. It's also really great because it is consistently saving your work. You don't have to think about, click on save as and, saving things. As you work, it's going to be saving things. So, if you do get pulled away or something happens, you're not going to lose anything. So, excuse me. So this is a blank drive. If you've used your drive before, you're going to have files in here. Within your Google Drive, you can access all of the software options here too. So your files live here, but you can also access Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, Google Forms, and more. So what are these? These are all free software offered by Google. And you may not be familiar with, but they kind of mirror, or they're kind of analogous to Microsoft Office Suite. So if you are familiar with Microsoft Office, so Microsoft Word, Google Docs is going to be similar enough that you're going to feel pretty comfortable using it. Same thing with Sheets and Excel. They're both spreadsheet software. Google Slides is sort of analogous to PowerPoint and so on. So if you have a patron, they may have some basic knowledge of Docs. And while they certainly can create a resume on Docs, and there are resume templates on there too, the nice thing about Google is they can save it and have it with them wherever they go. So we are going to, while we're still here, let's take a look. So if I click on new, that's going to give me the option to open up a new file. I can actually upload a file or a folder as well. So we'll come back to that later. But let's go ahead. The first thing we're going to talk about today is creating a job tracker. So, when someone is out, especially if they're looking for a lot of jobs, it can be overwhelming. And if they're not organized, they can end up with, missing things, not having those connections, not following up in the ways they want to. So we're going to use Google Sheets to create a job tracker. And then we're going to use Google to look for jobs, which I think is sort of the heart of this class. A lot of people don't know that Google sort of offers this because it's not a special website you have to know about. It's not Indeed where you have to create an account, or LinkedIn where you have to create a profile. They just have a really great job search interface integrated into Google. So we're going to spend some time there looking for jobs and then sort of narrowing down our search. And then finally, we're going to take a look at Google Docs and how to create a resume. So if you have a patron who doesn't have a resume at all, Google Docs is an excellent way to sort of have a very basic resume template that they can fill out and have, that they can, then upload or print out, whatever they want to do. And when we do that, we'll talk a little bit of basics of, what you should include on your resume, what you should not include on your resume, and what do you want to keep in mind as you're creating your resume. That's typically the hardest thing for patrons is, knowing what to include on that resume. So we'll spend some time talking about that. But first of all, we want to create a job tracker. So when I click on new, I want to create a job tracker. That's a spreadsheet. So I want to use Google Sheets. I can do a couple things. If I click directly here, I'm just going to open up a blank sheet. I can go over to the arrow and it's going to give me an option to either create a blank spreadsheet or from a template. We're going to start out just with a blank spreadsheet. So I can either click directly here or click on where it said blank spreadsheet and it would open it up for me. All right. So you can see here, this looks probably pretty familiar if you have any familiarity with Excel. And you're going to have a lot of carryover. Like I said, a lot of transferable skills here. So hopefully it's not too intimidating. I know it's a lot, but you can do a lot of things. So just like with any kind of spreadsheets, you have columns. They have columns going across the top. Those are vertical columns. Each of them are named with a letter. You also have horizontal rows, which are numbered. Likewise, any of these boxes, which are called cells, have a name. So we are currently in cell D5. So we're in column D, row 5. You can see up here. That's going to tell me the name of the box or the cell. So what do we want to do? The first thing we want to do is we want to name our spreadsheet. We want to know what we're working on. We want to give it a name. So if I'm out here working, all I have to do is click there, and you're going to see it's going to highlight everything in blue. Once it's highlighted in blue, I can simply start typing and it'll rename it for me. So if I start typing, this is going to be our job tracker. Oop. So there we go. I click anywhere else or hit enter, and it's going to name it for me. Now you notice up here kind of changed a little bit. Here we have a star. We have a folder with an arrow in it, and we have a cloud with a check mark. This star is simply a way to make this easy to find. Right now, our Google Drive is empty. But as you start creating resumes and you start creating, cover letters and, personal files and whatnot, you want to do some organization so you find this, it's easy to find. One of the ways you can do that is to hit a star. And we'll find out what this does here in a couple minutes. If I want to create folders, if you think of this, this is our cloud computing, this is our cloud storage. Just like if you have a flash drive, if you're thinking of the desktop of your computer, you can create folders and organize things and put things in folders so you don't just have a bunch of stuff, hanging out on your storage device. So if I wanted to create a folder, I can just click on that and you can see right now I don't have any folders. Remember, our drive is empty. I can click on this to create a new folder. So if I know that I want to have a folder that's everything for my job search, I can now create a folder, name job search, and then move this file, which is called job tracker, into my folder. It's going to tell me this. So job tracker has been moved from my drive, which is your very general area, to job search, which is a folder. I can go ahead and dismiss this. And then finally up here at the top, we have this little cloud with a check mark. If I hover, it'll say see document status. I can click on that. And you can see here, all changes have been saved to the drive. So that means that, anything I've ever done, the only thing I've done here is I've named it, I've started, I've moved it to a folder, but everything's been changed. I don't need to keep going up to file and saving things. I don't need to worry about that. Okay, so we've named it. Let's take a look at what else is on here that we can find that's pretty interesting to talk about. So if we look here at the bottom, when we think of an Excel file, we think of a Sheets file, which those are both spreadsheets. You want to think of it as our book. So our book is called Job Tracker. We have different pages in our book or different chapters in our book. So this is sheet 1. For example, if we're doing a job tracker, we might want to divide this up month by month, maybe quarter by quarter. Again, I can double click down here. You can see now it's highlighted. I can simply type over this to say that we are going to, I'm going to be really busy. I'm spending a lot of time working on my job search in September. So I want to have a sheet that is just September. So as I work, if I'm still working on my job search, most of us, aren't, we aren't finding a job that first month. We're going to be in this for a little while. So if I hit the plus, I'm going to have sheet 2. Same thing. I can double click on here and I can rename it and so on. So I can keep going for as many of these sheets as I need. This is simply, think of this as your table of contents. So if I click on this, I can switch in between my sheets here. So we're in September. We have it named. We have a couple sheets in our book. So what are we going to do with the book? Well, actually, before we even do that, let's talk about why we do this. Job searching can be overwhelming. We have a lot of things to do. We have a lot of things to work on. There's lots of pieces to the puzzle. Why even create a job tracker? You may have looked for a job before and not done this. Why add this extra step or this extra work for ourselves? Well, it's great organization. Again, this is going to this is going to help you to be able to track where you are. What jobs do you need to follow up on? What jobs do you need to, write a thank you note? We're going to talk about that. What jobs do you try to make connections if you're on LinkedIn or someone told you about that you want to do a little more research on? This is a great way to organize this. This is also your deliverable. Your job when you're looking for a job is looking for a job. You have a whole different set of skills that you're using. And you're spending time, and this is your physical manifestation of what you're doing. This is your deliverable to yourself. And this is it. This is deliverable just to yourself. This isn't something that necessarily you're going to share with anybody. So you really are going to make this customized to your needs. So I'm going to use a couple things that are, maybe things you want to track when you're doing your job search. But again, you can alter this to best fit your process. So if we're looking for jobs and we want to keep track of where we are, what are some things we want to think about? Obviously, we want to think about what is the actual position? What is the job title? What am I applying for? Where am I applying? What is the company name? Location. This might be something you leave off if you're looking for work from home, but maybe it is important. Your commute. You don't want to commute, if you have a job 5 minutes away versus 40 minutes away. That may make a difference. Salary. Oh, I just deleted everything, but the nice thing is up here in my toolbar, I have this little arrow that points backwards. Oh no, what I do, I switch over to October. So let's go back to September. So there we can see. Salary, we want to know how much we're making. if we have that information. URL, how do we find the website for the company? Any kind of notes. So do we know somebody who knows somebody who works there? Do we want to, you know, reach out to a former friend who maybe knows somebody there? You know, any sort of notes we might want to know about this job, as well as progress. So where are we? You know, as we're applying for jobs, there are steps we take. So, you know, we are going to tweak our resume. We're going to talk later about creating a resume. And every resume you do for every position, you should be tweaking it. Now, you're not going to rewrite that resume from ground up. And this should only take about 5-10 minutes, but you are going to tweak it. And we're going to talk about why you tweak it and how you tweak it. So you are tweaking your resume. You are doing that research. Obviously, before you interview, you're doing research, but even before you apply, you want to do some research. Is this a company that you want to work for? Okay, great. You know, we've done our research. We tweaked our resume, like we said. We have a great looking resume because we have a template and we've done our work on the back end. So we got an interview. Great. We have an interview scheduled. Okay. We went to our interview. What do we want to do? We want to follow up. We want to send a thank you note. So same day as our interview, we want to email a thank you. Ask if there's anything else, you know, you want to reiterate that you're a perfect fit for this job. Are there any other questions you might be able to answer? And if you go the extra mile, you send an email. I'm sorry, you send a thank you note, an actual physical thank you note. And that goes a long way. Not a lot of people do that anymore, so it really kind of stands out. And finally, anything else you might want to include? I think that's going to cover it for our example today. So let's go ahead. So say we were applying for a position. I tend to pick on human resources just because it has so many different names. So they were looking for a human resources manager position. And the company is Mubia, which is in Florence, Kentucky. I don't know the salary, unfortunately. I do know Mubia.com. I want to check with Steve Calhoun because he told me about this position. And you want to follow up and be like, you know, I looked into it. I think I'm going to apply. Can you give me any recommendations? Can you tell me who is in your HR department? And then finally, progress. Now, progress, we said, you know, you have the same stuff you're creating over and over again. So instead of having to write everything out, what we can do is something called data validation. So data validation is simply, you know, if you're looking at something, you see a little drop-down menu or you have a couple different options, that's data validation. Also, just an interesting thing to know. It's kind of a fun thing to know. So if I want to do data validation, again, it's going to be on something that I have the same description over and over in a list. So I'm kind of shortcutting my responses. So we want to go up to our column again. Remember, we're in column G. I'm going to right click. You know, if you are just in general, if you are left clicking, that's you are making something happen. If you right click, you are pulling up any kind of sub menu you have. So I went to column G and right clicked, and you can see here I have some options. These are, this is my menu. This is all the things I can do for this column. I can insert a column to the left, to the right, I can delete it, and so on. I can also summary sheet, which is going to be nice when we actually want to see. We want to group our jobs together to see where we are. So let's go down to data validation. I'm going to click on that. We're going to get this sheet, which is kind of, you know, a lot of information and kind of scary. But let's go through what everything on here means briefly. Okay, so our top one is cell range. So remember, our cells are our boxes. So this is the range that we are going to affect. We're in sheet September. Remember, that's the name of the sheet we're in. We're in column G, and we're going from G1, if I move over here, to G1000. So on this sheet alone, in column G, I'm going to the first 1,000 rows. That's what I'm going to affect. So if I do anything on here, this is going to be affected. Now we put sort of our headings here in row 1. So I don't want to affect row 1. So what I can do is instead of G1, I can change this. I click in here, change it to G2. So now everything I'm going to do here is going to affect from G2 to G1000. Sorry about that. My criteria. So what are we doing? What are we putting in here? What is, what are our options? We don't have a range of things. We have a list of things. So a list of ways to describe something. We don't have numbers. We do have text, but we're looking for that list of things. So now I need my list of things. How are we describing our progress? So we said, we do the same steps over and over again as we apply for jobs. We talked about this. So more research needed. So this might be anything from, I want to just Google the company. How are they doing? How big is the company? I want to reach out to Steve Calhoun. That can fall under more research needed. So we did that. And we updated a resume. So now we say resume submitted. So now we play the waiting game. But we did good. We tweaked our resume. We have a nice looking resume. It's professional. We are going to get the interview. So now we have an interview scheduled. Interview schedule. We went to it. It was pretty great. So now I want to do the thank you. So whether I'm going to send a thank you email saying, I really appreciate meeting with you today. I hope I explained how I would be a great fit for your company. Not in those exact words, but you actually say how you are a great fit. If you have any questions, please let me know. I look forward to hearing from you. If you go the extra mile, you actually send a physical thank you note. Well, let's say you went through the whole process and maybe you just decided wasn't a good fit. Maybe they decided it wasn't a good fit, but we're going to put this to bed. We are complete. This one is done. We don't have to worry about it again. We've done everything we're going to do. So this is our list. This is our process. Our next thing is this little check mark. So do we want to see a little drop-down list? Yes, we want to see a drop-down list. So we're going to leave that checked. Basically everything below this, we're going to leave the same. So if we try to put something in there weird, so like maybe we try to put a salary in there, it's going to show a warning like, what are you doing? That's not what goes in here. And then if we needed help, so if we need a little reminder of what we're putting in this column, we could check this and put a little reminder. We don't need to because we are going to have that drop down list. That is going to be our reminder. So all I'm going to do is going to hit save. So now you can see the change. So under progress, again, G1 is not affected because we told it to start at G2. So starting G2, I have this little arrow. So I have a drop down menu. If I click on that arrow, you see this is our list. So this is our list of process. Yeah, so I have this human resource. Well, I can't even see human resource. What? We need to resize our columns. So just like if you are familiar with Excel, same thing, a couple different things you can do. If you hover your mouse on the bar in between column A and column B, you'll see this arrow with two ends. You can simply click and drag. You can also, when you have that arrow, you can double click and it's going to resize it to fit your longest row. So the minimum size you need for your longest entry. And so you can do that for any of these. You can see notes. Notes you typically need a little bit longer because you're just kind of writing reminders to yourself. So let me double click that so I can see everything here. So now our human resources manager position with Movie and Florence. Where are we? Okay, so we heard about it. Steve told me, hey, check this out. You might be interested in this. I need to do a little more research. I need to go to movie.com and see what they have listed. And I can do this for every job that I'm working on. And just like Excel, you can group your, so if you want to see everything that you need to do more research on, maybe Monday is your research day. So that's when you sit down, you do your resumes, you look for the company information, and you move on. But so this is your job tracker. I hope that makes sense. But again, really, this is customizable. Is everybody going to need this? No. But I wouldn't sit down for someone who's looking for their first job in 20 years and be like, let's make a job tracker. But it is nice for those folks who are really in the thick of looking for a lot of jobs. It's a great thing to have. You can keep track of things. And again, you have that sort of deliverable. You can be like, yes, this is how I'm spending my time. Okay. So that's great, but we need to look for jobs. Maybe we don't know Steve Calhoun and we don't know that Movie is hiring. We need to find our jobs. So what do we want to do? This is, I think, the heart of what, if you take one thing from this class, I think this is the thing you want to do. We are going to look for jobs on Google. Well, all right. Why is this any different from just doing a Google search for whatever? Here, what you're going to do is you are going to type in a job, so human resources. So a job title, it could be human resources, it could be cashier, it could be customer service, it could be account manager, it could be CEO, anything you think, if someone's looking for a job, you simply type in the job title they're looking for. And then we also need to know where. So where are they looking for this job? So they're looking for human resources. Like I said, I happen to be in Erlanger, Kentucky. So I'm going to type in human resources near Erlanger, Kentucky. Well, you can see here, I got 478,000 results in 0.6 seconds. Now you may have some things you see here. I have a map here with some ads. So these might be, freelancers or companies. But what I'm looking for just happens to be at the top here. So I have this jobs banner. So I have jobs near Erlanger, Kentucky. And this is really all I'm looking for is this sort of baby blue banner. When I find it, we're there. So I want to go ahead and click on this. So this is the job search interface for Google, which is great. There's a lot of information on here, so we're going to spend a little bit of time going through, what's on here and how do we use this. So right now, this is Google's best bet for human resources jobs near Erlanger, Kentucky. Over here on the left, we're going to have a whole list of positions that I can scroll through. And over right is your more detailed information. So my first result was Senior Human Resources Specialist at Atlas Air in Erlanger, Kentucky. What other information do we know? What is this telling us? First of all, we're going to see all the different places that Google found this. So this really gets at the heart of why we might want to use Google and not just do Indeed or not just do LinkedIn. Both of those are great places to look for jobs. But what Google is it's out there scraping places for job listings. So Google found this posted on LinkedIn. So if you went on LinkedIn, you would have found this. True. If you went to talent.com, you would have found this. Jubal found it. Apply on Jobs, the Job Network. Tarta.ai, apply on BB. So these are all the places it found. So it's finding the jobs posted on LinkedIn, finding the jobs posted on Indeed, but also finding those jobs that aren't. Not every job is posted on LinkedIn and Indeed. For jobs to be posted there, someone has to physically go out and post them. Someone typically from HR is on those sites. It costs money to post jobs. So some places don't. Some places, if they're a really big Fortune 500 company, they may not need to. They have enough traffic coming into their website to find, to not need to post them. Government websites, they may not post them. Federal jobs may not be posted. So lots of different places, you might not find an Indeed or not find on LinkedIn that you will find on Google Job Search. We always tell people, it'll give you a link. So I can click right here and it's going to take me to LinkedIn. That should not be your first inclination though. We're going to keep looking here. So kind of fight the urge to click on one of these. We're going to keep looking. Okay, so this is the job title. This is where it is. This is the physical location. This is where Google found this job posted. This is when it was posted. So this job was posted 11 hours ago. And any sort of additional information. So you can see here, Google's kind of looking for keywords. So here we have, this was posted 11 hours ago and it is a full-time position. If I look over here on my list of jobs that it found, you can see, you will see that information here too. So this one was posted 2 days ago. It's listed as a contractor position and no degree was mentioned. So there's sort of big things that get mentioned. Here's one you can see. Posted 4 days ago. It's a full-time position, health insurance, dental insurance, and paid time off. So if this job doesn't have it, does it mean it doesn't have paid time off or health insurance? No, not necessarily. These are just sort of key things. Google's a robot and it's out there looking for keywords. We're going to talk about the influence of robots in job searching a little bit later as well. But it's out there looking for those keywords. So if it's not mentioned because it wasn't posted, it's just not going to be included. It doesn't mean that it's not included in things where you don't see it. Google then pulls some job highlights from the original job post. So you can see here, it's typically qualifications and responsibilities. This is going to give you some things to think about when you're working on that resume. Here we have some more descriptions. So now we have some a job ID, number of openings, categories. Any of these, you can see we have a little arrow pointing down with more job highlights. I can click on it and it's going to expand that out. Same thing here. Now you may have more things, sort of as you go down, depending on the position, you may have more information, you may not. In this particular case, they're listing similar jobs. So if you're interested in this job, these are other jobs you might find interesting. Here you have typical pay for this type of work. This I know some people take with a big old grain of salt. There's a wide range. So we're looking here from 64,000 to 160,000. That's not very useful. That's a huge, huge pay range. If you are truly curious about what a position should pay, I would recommend checking onetonline.org. They have a salary estimator. Now, it's not going to be for this particular company, but it's going to be for that job title. So what is a, average salary for this job title in Erlanger, Kentucky? Here you're going to see, in this case, we have some reviews of this company as an employer. And down here at the bottom, we kind of go, important stuff here at the top, kind of less important stuff with this, typical pay and your reviews, but then you get more important stuff again down here. So if I want to see atlasair.com, I can click right here. If I want to see any more jobs posted from them, I can click on this and see more jobs that have been posted by Atlas Air, or we can just see web results. So if we just, if you think of it as Googling, if we Google Atlas Air, what kind of results are we going to get? So we talked about, we want to fight the urge to click on this and apply for this on LinkedIn. What we want to do though, first, so we want to go down here and we want to check their websites. So if I click on this, you can see it's going to open up in a new tab. So I didn't lose any of my information here. It just is a new tab at the top. And here's where we want to check for the job search. So if they have, you can see down here, it's usually, if you're looking for this, you'll usually find it either at the top or at the bottom. So I'd scroll down here and you can see we have careers. And this is where you're going to want to apply. If you can avoid these filters, like these extra steps between yourself and Atlas Air, you want to. You want to apply as close to the actual company as possible. All right, so here's this. What else are we, and what else do we have here? We kind of talked about all this text on here, but let's kind of look up here at the top. Here we have save, kind of looks like a bookmark. I can click on that. Gonna turn on blue. You can see it says it's saved. When we were down here and we were looking at other similar jobs, you want to say, oh, I have bookmarks too. So any of these, if they look interesting, I can bookmark this and say, I want to come back and see this. There's this campus review. Actually, let's go back. Oh, so let's go back. Any of these I can highlight. I can bookmark, I mean. So what does that mean? So I put a bookmark on it, but what? Okay, so what does that tell me? Well, you'll notice here, the very top, this is our search, human resources near Erlanger, Kentucky. And Google knows we're near Erlanger, Kentucky, so it's telling me that that's where we're searching. We have 3 tabs in the blue. So our first one is our jobs tab. That's where we are. That's where we're actually seeing the job listings. Our second tab is saved. So anything I bookmark, as long as I'm logged into my Gmail account or my Google account, remember I'm logged in because my M is here. As long as I'm logged in, it doesn't matter where I was. If I go to Google and type in jobs near me, customer service jobs near me, human resources jobs near me, manufacturing jobs near me, As long as I'm logged in, I don't have to get any special website. I just Google it, I can save them. So if I have to leave and say, this is all the time I have for today, but I want to come back maybe tomorrow and look at these jobs, I can find this as long as I'm logged into my Gmail account. So these are your bookmarks. You see over here, you can click on any of them and get to that job listing. If I don't want this, I can just simply unbookmark it. So now I have 2 saved. If I refresh this or go, tab over and tab back, it's going to be gone. The one I left, I took the bookmark off of. So this little symbol, this is if you want to share it. So maybe you find something, is not a good fit for you, but somebody, you have a family member, maybe you're doing, you have a day and you're going to do a good deed and you're going to help your brother look for jobs. If you found this strength, this would be a really great fit for him. You can click this little symbol and then you can either email them. If he was an email contact with your Gmail account, that would show up here. Or you could just copy this link. So now I could send him an email and pop that link in there. Okay, so let's go back to our jobs tab. So these are the jobs. So now we've seen, we have our list of things with quite a few. I tend to pick on human resources because it's such a broad range. You have everything from entry level to very high level. You have lots of different job titles. And you have a lot of different fields. That's sort of why I pick on this as an example in this class. So like I said, we're getting a ton. It's great to have options. It's not great to have too many options. We're just wading in of this sort of giant pool of things. We need to focus in a little bit better and have a better idea of what we're looking for. And this is the best thing I like about this job search interface, is that we can get very granular. We can identify these things that are important to us as job seekers and really just get those results. So how do we do that? So we talked about our 3 tabs up here in the blue. Underneath that, we have tabs here in the white. So title, location, new to you, date posted, requirements, type, company type, and employer. This is where you're really going to get in there and really refine your search. So our first one is title. So when Google is out there looking for human resources near Erlanger, Kentucky, what are they finding? These are the titles that we have on our results. So our results over here on the left have these titles. So we have business partners, we have HR coordinator, we have resources manager, associate partner, and so on and so forth. Here we can go through and actually refine the job titles that we're looking for. Maybe I'm not interested in being a business partner. I'm not interested in being a director or merchandiser. Maybe I'm kind of switching career paths and I'm really kind of, not really at HR coordinator level yet, but I'm more generalist and HR specialist. I can go through here and pick the job titles that apply to me. There's not a way to deselect. You are strictly selecting for. So right now the default is all. So I'm getting all of these titles, but once I start going in here and clicking on titles, job titles, I'm going to narrow my results down pretty quickly. So he said, we are not at the coordinator level. I don't want to be a partner. But maybe, resource coordinator, that might be a good job title. Maybe a generalist, resources generalist, support specialist, resources assistant, resources specialist, resource generalist. So you get a lot of different things, because like I said, human resources just in general have a lot of different job titles. I have selected 7 job titles. So now my results, you can see they're different. I don't have the same results I had before. So I have different things on the left. And I'm going to have fewer results, but they're going to be more meaningful. They're going to be positions I'm actually interested in. So now at the top, I have a human resources generalist with Ortho Cincinnati. And they're in Erlanger, Kentucky. This was I apply on Depot. I'm not familiar with that. So it looks like, Google didn't find this on LinkedIn. This is what it said 19 hours ago. We do have a salary here. You won't always get that. This is a full-time position. Just like before we saw here, we have our qualifications and responsibilities. I can hit that to see more. Same thing here. Here are your similar jobs. We already have one that we bookmarked before. Hourly pay comparison. Now, again, like I said, I would take this with a grain of salt. Now, this is a generalist, which tends to be a little more on the entry level side. So, it's not surprising that it's not going to be at their upper level. Does this mean this is a bad salary? Not necessarily, even though this might lead you to believe that. That's why I said any of the salary things, I tend to tell people, don't focus on that. Here you have the actual website, any more jobs that are posted with OrthoCincinnati, and just sort of a general web search. All right, so we've narrowed down the titles to these 7 titles. Now we told Google, show me human resources near Erlanger, Kentucky. Well, what does that mean? What does near mean? Location is going to tell us what near means. So they're saying Erlanger, which is sort of the big city, they're going very tightly focused, which this is not completely accurate because we're getting jobs in St. Bernard. But you can have some focus over how far are you willing to travel. So you can see here, if I blow this up to 60 miles, these are all of the cities, again, that I have results in. Is this every city within 60 miles? No. This is what we're seeing in our results. But more importantly than maybe the accuracy of the commute is we can choose work from home. So if we know, our patron knows that they are looking for a work from home position, we can actually say this. You can see, now if I say work from home, there's no longer near. It doesn't matter. They can be anywhere. We don't have to be any certain radius of Erlanger, Kentucky. And you can see my results changed. So now instead of having that Atlas Air and then OrthoCincy, now we have Panasonic. Again, you're going to have all that same information. And again, a lot of this is dependent on what Panasonic has provided. Similar jobs. In this case, we didn't have any salary information, but we do have sort of their reviews as an employer and those same 3 links at the bottom. And these are, important, not so important, important. So say we want to work from home. We want human resources with these titles that I can work from home. So now I have 8 filters. So I've placed 8 filters on our search. Each time we add this filter, we're getting smaller but more meaningful results. New to you, if you are doing this on a weekly basis, if you're looking for jobs and you're writing your job search and you only want to see things you haven't seen yet, you can click that. I am not going to, because what we're going to do is we're going to set up an alert. So we're going to build this perfect job search and create an alert. So we don't have to keep doing this. I don't have to build the search from scratch every week. So I'm not going to worry about new to you. So I'm just going to kind of bypass it. Date posted. Do I want to see everything that's been posted in the past day, the past 3 days, the past week, and the past month? I get to choose. Now, let's say this is my first time looking for this job, or I'm helping a patron. They're really just new to the job market. They just lost their job, unfortunately, and you're helping them look for jobs. They may just want to see things from the past week because they haven't searched before. So show me everything that's been in the past week. So I can narrow this down. I'm not going to get things that were posted 28 days ago. Things were posted 20 days. Are they still open? Possibly. More than likely, they have some folks in mind. They're already in the interview process, and it's sort of late in the game. So I would spend more time, especially if you're just starting out, to looking for things that were posted more recently. Requirements. So again, this has to be mentioned somewhere in the job listing, but typically for this job posting, or what I'm looking for, how much experience do I have? Do I have a degree? If I don't have a degree, maybe I want to look just for jobs that mention having no degree. I don't want to waste my time applying for things that require more experience and or education than I have. No experience, under 3 years. Maybe I've been in the field for a long time and I have lots of experience and I want to be paid for that. I want to leverage that against the job market. So you can choose this. So let's say, I said in our fictional example here, I'm relatively new. I made a job, a career switch, and I don't have much experience. But let's say I've had some management experience, and I can say, okay, I've had under 3 years of experience. So again, fewer results, and you can tell that because my bar over here keeps getting bigger, but more meaningful results. So now we're looking for these job titles. I can work from home that have been posted in the past week. And do not mention, you can have 3 or fewer years of experience mentioned in the actual application. Type. Very simple, very straightforward. Am I looking for a full-time job? Am I looking for a part-time job? Am I looking for a contractor? You can barely see it because it's grayed out because we don't have any results that fall under internships. So if I know I'm really looking for full-time positions and I don't want to be an independent contractor, I can choose that. I don't have to. I can always say I want to see everything. I just want to see what options are out there. Let's go ahead and say that we're looking for a full-time position. That's really what I need. All right, we're almost at the end here. Let's look at our company type. So this is going to be your industry. So if you have a ton of experience in human resources and you've worked at a hospital, maybe you're looking for healthcare. Maybe education. Maybe you're open to both. Maybe you're like, all right, well, I've always wanted to work in travel and hospitality. That might be an option here. In our fictional example, I'm going to leave this blank. I don't want to narrow it down by industry. I want to see everything that's available. So I'm going to leave that blank. And finally, as employer, this, you have to keep in mind, these are just your results. So these are employers in this list. So if I wanted to kind of look and see, okay, well, what kind of results am I getting? Maybe I really want to work for Angie. It used to be Angie's List. If I click on that, I'm going to see that result. So seeing a bunch of results, I'm seeing that one result. So that we've narrowed it down very, 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 very tightly because we're seeing that one employer. So it's good to find things, but I typically don't recommend to set up a job search this way. And that's what we're doing. We've gone through here and we've spent the time to really think about what we're looking for. We're only looking for specific titles. We're only looking for work from home. We're only looking for positions that require under 3 years of experience. We're only looking for full-time positions. So I've done all this work. I got my results. I'm kind of going through here and looking looking for those similar jobs, seeing what might be of interest to me. And I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to start from scratch next week when I come back to the library, your patron comes back to the library. I don't want to have to think about doing this search. So the thing we haven't talked about on this page yet is right down here in this bottom left-hand corner. New job alerts. Right now it's turned off. All I have to do is click on it to turn it on. So you can see I got a little alert here. It says manage alerts in the tab above, sending daily to my Gmail account. Got it. So we talked about the 3 tabs in blue. These are our job results. Those are the saved jobs, so the jobs we bookmarked. And finally, we have alerts over here. So this is the job, the ideal job search that we just created. These are those job titles we created. We were looking for those job titles. We were looking for under 3 years of experience. We were looking for full-time. We were looking for work from home. So what Google is going to do is they're going to send them to me. They make it easy. Google is going to, search for these jobs. And when they pop up, guess what? I'm going to get a daily digest of all those jobs. I can get it instantly if I want to know. As soon as a job pops up that meets these requirements, I want that email to find out about it. I can do that. Or I can get a weekly. I advise against weekly because, again, you want to stay really current in your job market. You want to be applying right away. Okay, so what does this mean? Let's see how fast they are. Sometimes they're fast, sometimes they're not so fast. So if I go up to my waffle menu and I find my Gmail, just here, I can click on that. It's always going to open a new tab, so you're not losing anything. I haven't got anything yet. We'll check at the end of the class and see if we've gotten anything. But this is my job alert. Now, a question we get a lot from patrons is, okay, well, can I go in here and refine things? Say, I want to see job alerts for work from home companies, but I also want to see things that are local. So let's change this to 30 miles, but everything else we want to stay the same. So we are still looking for those full-time positions, under 3 years of experience, posted in the last week with these job titles. All I have to do is click that again. I'm going to get the same alert. I go up here to alerts now. You can see now I have 2. So here you can see this one was the oh, okay, so this is a new one, 30 miles, and this is the work from home. So daily, I'm going to get digests of jobs that fit both of these. Okay, maybe we decide, work from home sounds really great, but I really don't want to do it. I really miss the culture of working. So I no longer want to get these digests. Very simple. You go to Google, you look for jobs. You're going to have this as long as you're logged in. You can go to your alerts. You simply X. And it's going to say, do you want to delete this alert? I delete it. Now I'm not going to get emails about those work from home positions. I'm only going to get things that are active. And you can have multiple things here. So if you're looking for different fields, if you're looking for different titles, if you're looking for anything you want, you can set up multiple alerts. So my emails will check back. Okay, so now we've used Google to set up a job tracker. We've used Google to look for jobs. We found a job, put it on a tracker. Now we want to apply for it. So over here, I have a tab open still with my Google Drive. You can see. Let's get back to our job tracker. We're going to log this job. Okay, well, I accidentally X'd out of there. Well, accidentally X'd out of there. Accidentally X'd out of there. Oh no. Okay, so the nice thing is, as soon as we'd open that, we had an untitled spreadsheet. If I refresh this now, there's our spreadsheet. We didn't have to do anything to save it. It saved it automatically. You can see it updated now with our name. If I open this, it's going to have everything we had. I didn't have to do anything to save this. So I don't have to worry about that. That's going to be here. We put that star on there when we opened our job tracker, and I said we talk about it later. Well, later is now. So I have lots of things. You can see here, they're always going to give you a suggested file. So these are those things where like, okay, we think you're going to want this. It's going to be things you opened up recently, opened up a lot. That's going to be up here. Next are going to be your folders. So you can see I have a folder here for job search. If I open this up, there's that job trackers. Remember, we put it in that folder. The other thing I can do is over here on the left, I have an option that says starred. If I click on that, guess what? Our job tracker is there too. So very easy to find. Because we have that star, anytime I click on that star file, it's going to pull that up. So, if you are working a lot and you're like, I love Google Drive, I'm going to use it for everything. You can have lots and lots of folders, lots and lots of files. But those things you're like, I want to have really easy access to, you can put it in your starred box. You can see here, Google does give you 15 gigabytes of free storage. If you should end up using a ton of it, you may want to buy storage. It's not very expensive. So that would be the only thing really, the only charges you'd ever incur, and that is highly unlikely unless you use it a lot. Everything else is absolutely free. So we have our job tracker. I cleared out everything, but if I go to Google and if I just type in jobs near me, jobs near anything really, jobs near Dallas, Texas, say, we're always looking for that blue banner. I'm going to click on that. You can see because I'm still logged in, I can still go to saved and find those jobs that I bookmarked. I can also go to alerts and have my active alerts here. So you never have to worry about it. You don't have to go to any special site to find those jobs you saved. As long as you were logged into your Gmail account or your Google account, all you have to do is find any kind of jobs. I think maybe if we just type in jobs, it'll do it. Yeah. All you're really doing is looking for that baby blue banner. And once you have that, you have access to all your jobs. It's not a specific site you have to go to. Okay, so let's go back. So like I said, we have our job tracker now. We know how to look for jobs. Next up, we want to apply for these jobs. So just like before, we went to new. And instead of a Google Sheet, we want a Google Doc. And just like before, we can go to the arrow. We can either have a blank document or from a template. You can absolutely build a resume from scratch if you want to, or you can look at the templates. Templates are nice because if you think of a resume, there's two things you really want to worry about. You want to worry about how it looks and what's on it. Both of those things are important. You are responsible for what's in it. So you're responsible for the material. The nice thing is Google has done the work of formatting for you. So if I look at templates, you can see anything I've used recently will show up here. The top after that, though, is resume. So Google gives you 5 free templates that you can use. So what is the difference? Some of it is how much you can kind of fit physically on the page. Something like Swiss versus Serif. Serif, you have 2 columns. You can kind of squeeze a little more information here where you have a heading off to the side, you have some white space, and then you have your information. But you can really kind of play around and take a look at any of these. Depending on your patron, most people end up using Swiss or Serif for the most part. Coral is pretty informal. And then some of it just comes down to style. So let's go ahead and take a look at our template here. We're going to look at Swiss. I just click on it once. That's going to open it up. So now we have a resume template. Like I said, the nice thing about this is they've done the heavy lifting as far as design and formatting. You get to focus on what you're actually including on here. And they kind of tell you, okay, well, guess what? Here's your name. So if you aren't familiar, anytime you use a mouse, if you click once, that moves your cursor. So I can move my cursor anywhere here. So I'm clicking once. If I click twice, like double click fast, you select a word. If I triple click fast, which sometimes is a challenge, you are selecting a whole section. So if I triple click, excuse me, I've highlighted your name. Once it's highlighted, I can simply start typing and it's going to replace that entry. So what do we think about the format that Google has given us? Okay, what you want to look at is format. For the most part, you're going to be using one format throughout your resume. Usually it's going to be sans serif, which means it doesn't have those little like feet on your letters. You can use color. 2 color, it's fine. I wouldn't add more than that. So let's say creative director. What are you going to put in here? This is going to be the job title you're applying for. So I'm going to cheat and go back over here and we're going to go to our jobs tab. Again, you can see here, I have an ad here for Indeed, not surprisingly. Underneath that's my blue banner. That's what I'm looking for. Say we are going to go ahead and create a resume and we are going to be creating a resume from scratch. But since we're going to be applying for mostly these human resources jobs, I'm going to kind of create it in general. Because again, we're not going to redo our resume from scratch for each job. We are going to tweak it a little bit. So what do we want to put here? If you have a profession, you're going to put your profession there. I'm a librarian, so I would put librarian there. If I don't have a professional title, I'm going to put the job title that I'm applying for. So recruiter or field recruiter. So you would put that here. Again, this is highlighted. I can simply start retyping. So I don't like this color orange, not my favorite. Again, even though it's a template, we can customize it. This is our template. This is meant to be for us. So if I don't like this color, I can highlight it. So again, I can double click to highlight the word, or I can simply click and drag. I go up here. This A is your text color. You can hover over it and it'll tell you, this is your text color. I don't like this orange, so I'm going to change it. Let's say I like this sort of navy-ish blue instead. Now I've changed it. Now, like I've said, 2 colors is fine. If I'm going to change one color, I would change this as well. So I can either, change it this way. Again, you have your backup arrow. So anytime you do something you don't want to do, you can just hit that back arrow, and that's gonna reverse your last action. So now I've changed it. So Michelle Mueller, I am applying for a recruiter position. That's my name. And I'll tell you what I want to put in here, my name. So now we're going to get a little more finer detail of what to include on your resume. And if you ask 10 people, you're probably going to get 10 different suggestions. So I'm going to give you suggestions, but is it the only right answer? Absolutely not. But yeah, do you want to have your name? That's very important. Now, do you want to have your address? That's up to you. Generally, what people are saying is that a one-page resume is great. A two-page resume is fine. You don't have to fit everything on one page, especially if you've been in your career for 30 years. You know, you may not have that luxury of being able to condense your resume that much. I would avoid a page and a half though. If you're doing a page and a half, you either want to tighten it up. Ideally, you'd want to tighten it up. You really don't want to be padding your resume. So how can you do that? You can take your resume out if you want. It's not as important. If you are looking for that work from home job, you don't have to include it at all. So if I need extra space, I might want to delete that and move some of these rows up. You do want to include a phone number. If you do have a home phone number versus a cell phone number, only include one. You don't have to say what it is, just include your cell phone number. You do want to include your email address. We talked about, you know, if you have a patron who has like an AOL account, really suggest them to get a Gmail account, and not just a Gmail account, a professional Gmail account. What does that mean? Well, that means we're not going to do like Bird Lover 74. We're not going to do Daddy's Little Girl or anything like that. We just want a name. Some permutation of name. Everyone and their brother has a Gmail account now, so sometimes it can be hard, especially if a common name. But you're going to put some permutation of your name. So, you know, if I'm Michelle Mueller, I would have something, you know, Michelle _ Mueller, or, you know, and have to add a couple numbers, but I'm going to do that. What's missing from up here though? So I have my name, my contact information. If you are helping someone who maybe works in a more entry-level field, this is it. That's all you need. If you're looking for someone who is a little higher up in the professional field, probably a LinkedIn account. So if they have a LinkedIn account, they would want to include it here. That's where I'd put this. Next, we have skills, and we will talk a little bit about resumes. So what is a resume? A resume is not just a list of jobs that you've had and what you did in those jobs. A resume is meant to be a marketing tool for you. So this is really what we want to show why someone wants to hire you. And why do they want to hire you? Because you're going to be an easy fit, not a lot of training, and you're going to bring something to the position. So we want to highlight the important things at the top, not so important things at the bottom. So you can see here, what skills do we have? And when you think of yourself, you know, everyone has both hard skills, and I don't particularly love the term, but soft skills. Hard skills are those things you can train somebody to do. You can train somebody to use Microsoft Office. You can train somebody to use QuickBooks. You can train somebody to use an ATS system if you work in human resources. You want to include this, but why? You know, what do we want to make sure we're including? When we look back at our jobs, so this SAS field recruiter, for example, we want to be looking at this top section, our qualifications, our responsibilities, and we want to look for keywords. So we want to make sure that we are seeing words here on our resume. And why do we want to worry about that? I mentioned ATS before, and ATS just stands for Applicant Tracking System or Applicant Tracking Software. A company may list a job. They may have 100 people. They probably have 100 people applying for that job. HR does not have the time to look at 100 resumes. They are not looking at your resumes as soon as you send them. What they use is called applicant tracking software. You can think of it as a robot. That is going through resumes, and they are trying to parse out or figure out who is a good match for this job. And how do they do it? They're a robot, so all they can do is think of numbers and matching and things that robots can do. So they are simply looking for word repetition. So things that are posted in the job posting are on your resume. So you want to have those keyword matches. So yeah, so if we're looking for this job title, we want to look for here. You know, we talk about soft skills or essential skills. Those are those skills that you can't necessarily teach somebody. You can teach somebody QuickBooks. Can you teach somebody to be self-motivated? No, you might coach somebody, but that is really something that they have to like build within themselves. So you might want to say that self-motivated, that's one of your skills. Lateral thinking skills, creativity, retail environments, so recruiting. And so you want to kind of look for here and pull out those keywords. And you want to kind of load those into your skills. Well, the nice thing is because, you know, you're applying, typically people apply for the same type of positions. That's where you don't have to start from scratch for all these, but you just want to take a look at that job posting and make sure you're getting those keywords in there, because that's what ATS is looking for, is those keywords. So you're gonna put your skills here, both hard skills and soft skills. Then you're going to work on your experience. And this is not just a list of your job duties. If you worked in human resources, yes, there are some things that everybody does. Does that give it any value? You know, once you get past that ATS, you know, the robot's like, yes, this person is a good fit. Look at all these words that match our job listing. HR should see this, human eyes. Let's pass this along. So now, congratulations, you have human eyes looking at your resume, and they're looking at your job title, and they're just saying, well, yeah, everybody does this. What they're looking for is what makes you different. So the so what. So what did you do and so what? What did it do? It sounds simple, but anytime you can put numbers on a resume, it helps. It just makes it concrete in a way that just saying it doesn't. So you really want to spend some time in thinking about, you know, even if you were a cashier, maybe you were able to scan thing with a 99% accuracy. You want to include that on your resume, not just be I check people out. In it, you know, incorporating any sort of numbers is great. Also, anytime you saved money, anytime you made money, anytime you made something easier, you want to put that on your resume. Education, a little less important here. You do want to have a school name and a degree. If you are worried, or if your patient's worried about aging themselves, guess what? You can leave the dates off. It's not that important. The important part is you have a degree. Again, as we move down, it becomes less and less important. So down here at the awards, if you don't have awards, like if you work in a position that doesn't really use awards, guess what? Highlight it and hit delete. You don't need it. So ideally, this is where you're going to spend your time. You're going to do one really great resume. You're going to go in and tweak it, and then you're going to go ahead and submit it. Okay, so we're ready to submit it. I've spent time on my resume. Well, what do I do now? Typically, when you apply for a job, most of the time now, they are using that ATS, applicant tracking software. If you are uploading a resume, that's what that is. They will typically tell you how to submit it. It's usually either a Word document or a PDF. This is neither of those. This is a Google Docs document. So what are we going to do? The nice thing is you can go to File, and we are going to download it. And when I go down to download, you can see it gives me several options. So I can download this as a Microsoft Word file. I can download this as a PDF or several other file types. Microsoft Word and PDF are going to be your most common ones. And it's going to tell you what kind of file to upload. Usually it tells you can do those too. If you get the option, we always recommend to download and submit a PDF document. That freezes that formatting. So you're never going to have, you know, a line kind of go off or your spacing go off. So go ahead and download it as a PDF if you can and submit it that way. You can also, if we go back here, in My Drive, say you already have a resume, or you have a patient that has a resume on that flash drive. And they don't want to start from scratch. They don't want to care about this, you know, this template. They don't have time for that. We get that a lot, right? If they have a file, accidentally create a new folder. If they have a file already on a flash drive, you can click on New, and we can just upload a file. So if I happen to have a flash drive, you can go over here and find it and I can upload it. I don't have one in this example, but they can do that. And that way they have it. So even, if they have that flash drive, it's always nice to have one in here just to access it. I mean, you can download, if you have a smartphone, you can download the Google Drive app and you can work on this, as you're sitting in the car on the pickup line at school. So it's a really nice thing to have. Okay. So thank you guys for hanging in there. So we have created a job tracker using Google Sheets. That's where we're going to keep track of our jobs. We have looked for jobs using Google. No special website. As long as you're signed in, you can save things, you can set alerts. We created a resume. We focused on creating a marketing tool for ourselves. We focused on keeping things current, highlighting what makes us a good fit for the job, and what we bring to the job. Hopefully that's going to help your patrons find a job. I'm going to give one last shot here and see if we got our alerts yet. Oh, sorry, that's our Google search. We want to go to Gmail. Oh, look at this. All right, it didn't make me a liar. So you can see we got job alerts from Google. I have 10 new jobs for human resources near Erlanger, Kentucky. This is the one we did not delete. So you can see here, I have all of these. So any of these, again, right from this email, I can click on it and it's going to take me to that interface. My human resources specialist with Darling Ingredients and all that information we looked at today. So I hope this has been useful. I think it is a great thing to be able to show patrons. I know with Indeed sometimes, I know we're not isolated here, but Indeed will help you create a resume online, but then you have to pay to download it. And you have lots of websites that do that. This is all completely free. You don't have to subscribe to anything other than having a Gmail account. And Gmail accounts are kind of so omnipresent these days that a lot of people already have them. And if they don't, it's a good thing to have. So hopefully this will help you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. But yeah, so I really hope this helps you help patrons, which at the end of the day is what we're all here for. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Again, my name is Michelle Mueller with Kenton County Public Library. And everybody have a great day. Thanks. Bye-bye.